Early childhood educators hold one of the most important jobs in the country. Not only do they provide high-quality care for the nation's children, but if it weren't for them, millions of workers who rely on long day care, doctors, nurses, brickies, office workers, workers from every industry, would be forced to find alternative arrangements or stay home from work. Yet the pay for these highly trained educators remains very low, as little as $21 an hour. For years, educators, who are members of United Voice, have been campaigning for professional recognition and equal pay. Tired of asking nicely, they're taking the fight for equal pay to the streets, with more than 3,000 educators stopping work last Thursday and staging rallies and marches in major centres around the country. We were at the Melbourne rally, where hundreds of educators marched from the State Library and rallied at the Trades Hall.
I'm Amanda, and I've been an educator for over 10 years.
Amanda, is this the first time you've ever been on strike?
For me personally, yes, it's the first time I've attended one.
And what did it feel like to take strike action?
Oh, it's exhilarating. I am buzzing at the moment. I feel really naturally just high and motivated for change, positivity, community, looking after people, being together, working together. It's going to last for a few days, and my voice won't though.
I'm Erin Darmanin and I've been an educator for 18 years.
I'm Susan Gosling. I've been in the industry for 9 years.
I'm Stephanie Reinhardt and I've been an educator for 6 years.
And why are you on strike today?
For better pay.
You're very highly skilled professionals but are paid very low pay. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, we're undervalued because early childhood's never been recognised as a professional industry. Even when the changes came in where everybody had to have a qualification, nothing changed. We do as much study, if not more, with professional development and, things like that, and it's just unfair.
What do you say to the people that say early educators are just babysitters?
I think that's absolute nonsense because we have to have so many skills. We look after children with anaphylaxis. We have, we do first aid courses. We continuously do, I think we've done about 5 courses this year alone, just to keep up with education and making sure that we're up with everything. And it's, we are highly skilled and we deserve. Yeah, and we do a great job looking after these kids who are, who really need nurturing and on a day-to-day basis, yeah.
And if you had a message for Malcolm Turnbull, what would it be?
I'd say, bloody put up our wages and let us earn a decent living so we can support ourselves and not have to worry about, struggling on a day-to-day basis.
And value the future.
This is United Voice Victorian Secretary Jess Walsh addressing the crowd.
So today, thousands of early educators have walked off the job around Australia, and we are just warming up because we are done asking nicely for equal pay, aren't we? Now, we care for and educate the future of the country, but for all the important work that we do, we are paid half the average wage or less. Other professionals with similar qualifications get paid about a third more than we do. Now, we are qualified, we are committed, we are professional, we are dedicated. Is it right that we are paid a third less? No! So, United Voice, early educators, are we going to stand for it anymore? No! Are we going to take it? No! Are we going to stand up? Yes! Are we going to speak out? Yes! So that's why we've walked off the job, and that's why thousands of educators around the country have walked off the job with us today. They are standing up and they are speaking out at rallies like this one here at the Trades Hall in Victoria. We've even walked off in Mildura, and the Mildura members are not with us because what they're doing right now is they are currently nicely visiting their local Member of Parliament and demanding equal pay in Mildura. Now, we have been building up to this huge action for a long time. The first walk-off started with 6 centres here in Victoria. We led the way. And those educators inspired the rest of the country to jump on board earlier this year. The second walk-off shut down over 30 centres, not just in Victoria, but around the country. But today, we are national, we are huge. Over 100 centres are shut down right now, with 3,000 educators walking off the job and on the streets. Our message is simple, and it is equal pay right now. Equal pay. 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 Right now. All right, now no one in Australia thinks it's okay that early educators get paid $21 an hour anymore. Everyone knows that early educators deserve to be paid more. Everyone. And a responsible government would have fixed this by now. A responsible government would have made sure that early educators are recognised and respected. So, if the Prime Minister refuses to agree to our demands for equal pay, right now, we need to think about what we're going to do. Are we going to just walk away and stop our campaign if he doesn't agree? If this rain won't make us walk away, is the Prime Minister refusing equal pay going to make us walk away? So, are we going to just stop our campaign if he says no? Are we ever going to give up on our demands for equal pay? What we are going to do if he says no is we are going to get bigger, we are going to get stronger, we are going to get louder. We are going to get prouder in the actions that we are willing to take. And United Voice Early Educators, if we have to, if this is what it's going to take, we will shut the whole sector down. Equal pay right now. 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 Equal pay.
Hi, my name's Jane. I've been an educator for 34 years.
So Jane, in 34 years, you would have seen a fair bit in the sector. Why now? Why are educators standing up now?
I think the time's right. I think that traditionally the sector was viewed as childcare, it was viewed as babysitting, and I think now it is viewed. We are professionals. We are viewed as professionals, and we are expected to be professionals. We have with the frameworks, we have a curriculum now. The documentation we're expected to do is at a professional standard. So we are professionals, and so we deserve to be paid as professionals.
Why do you think the pay is so low in your sector?
Traditionally, we are a female occupation, which was viewed as childcare and babysitting, as I said before. So, with the added expectations of, with curriculum, documentation, qualifications, all the rest of it, the time is right to step up, and the time's right to start demanding those professional wages.
A motion was passed by acclamation that there'll be another big strike next year. Will you keep turning up? Will you keep going on strike for equal pay?
This is the third strike I've personally attended, and I've personally walked out. This is the third time. There is no way that I will not be there for the next strike. I will be there. Our centre will be there. Our parents, we have 100% support from our families. We had cake sent to our centre today from families, and the comments that they were making to the educators of congratulations for standing up and support, and we were thanking our families for coming at 3 o'clock to support us, and they were like, you guys go for it, you guys deserve this, we see how hard you work, we see the amazing work you do, it's time, stand up.
I'm Narelle Lawton, I'm Director of Dawson Street, and I've been an educator for 22 years.
This is not the first time that Dawson Street's gone on strike. Why are the educators at Dawson Street going on strike?
Because we demand equal pay. We are worth more than what we are getting, and I hold a Bachelor of Education, same as my primary and secondary counterparts, yet I get paid 50% less than them. And why? The youngest children of our generation are the most important, and the foundation of their learning is so important.
What are your thoughts on how the fight's coming along so far?
I think it's excellent. As as you said, this is our third strike, and the numbers have just tripled, quadrupled, and we just can't wait to keep pushing and keep fighting, and we will win this.
You're listening to Stick Together, brought to you right across the nation on the Community Radio Network. This week, we're bringing you the story of Australia's biggest ever strike in the early education sector. Joining us now by phone is Helen Gibbons, who is the National Assistant Secretary of United Voice. Thanks for joining us, Helen.
No worries.
Helen, what happened last Thursday has been described as the biggest strike of early childhood educators in the sector's history. Can you tell us about how it came about?
Early childhood educators have been campaigning for wage justice. They have been talking for many years about how undervalued and underpaid they are, and have been getting increasingly frustrated and increasingly angry that this government has failed to act. And what we saw last Thursday was the biggest walk-off in Australian history, where they closed the doors in their centres, walked off the job and met at rallies and community events and town hall meetings all across the country to talk about what's next and how they're going to get this government to listen.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how the actions unfolded across the country?
So educators had worked really closely with parents and employers on this. You can't close up shop and leave children unlooked after, like, the protection issues and safety issues. And of course, educators would just never do that to families and children. So they'd been working for many weeks with families and the employers about how to make this happen, and had organised for the parents to collect their children early so that they were able to shut the doors at 3:20 in the afternoon and walk off the job. And it's just huge. This has grown from an action that happened on International Women's Day in March, where it's the first national action. It's 3 times as big this time round on last Thursday. This is only going to get bigger. These women are getting more and more militant and much stronger in what they're calling for, and much more determined about how they're going to go about it.
And why was 3:20 the time that the educators took action?
3:20 is really symbolic, and it's symbolic of the time that women in Australia effectively start working for free to demonstrate in relation to the gender pay gap. And it seems like an appropriate time in relation to this story, because this story is a story of the undervaluation of women and the undervaluation of women's work.
What are the educators demanding?
Well, educators are qualified and experienced and have been working in the sector for many years with enormous responsibility, and yet they can be paid as little as $21 an hour, which I think everybody in the community recognises is just ridiculous. And they are demanding that the government takes seriously their work and values their work appropriately.
$21 an hour seems quite low for the work they do. Why are the wages in the sector so low?
It's because it's historically been seen as women's work, and it still is. 97% of the people who work in the sector are women. But historically, it's been seen as women's work. The care and education of young children is undervalued when it's performed in the home, and it's undervalued when it's performed outside of the home. So there's this legacy issue of the undervaluation of the work that happens in early education and care, and it's carried forward to the demonstration of that, which is $21 an hour.
A few years ago, we saw the ASU win a landmark equal remuneration case, which led to very large pay increases for the largely female social services sector. Is United Voice pursuing a similar avenue?
We've lodged a case with the Fair Work Commission, which is essentially an equal pay case. But we lodged it 4 years ago, and we haven't even started hearing evidence. We're still at the point where we're having really technical arguments about how the case should proceed. And in the meantime, the young children that attend childcare have grown up and gone to school. The educators that can no longer afford to work in the sector have left, and everybody is continuing to be paid appalling rates. And what's so frustrating about that is that the government could fix this tomorrow. The government could recognise that these people are undervalued, and recognise that the reason they're staying undervalued and paid so low is because the funding of the sector is set up to take advantage of women being paid $21 an hour.
With pay so low in the sector already, what's actually driving the high cost of childcare? Where's all the money going, the money from both fees and the government rebates?
There's an awful lot of money involved in the sector, and the government already pays a significant amount towards subsidies and rebates and all sorts of other complicated arrangements around funding. And of course, parents pay substantial fees as well, and it's a significant part of the family budget. But it's a really expensive business to run. It's not like bundling 25 babies into a classroom with one teacher and hoping for the best. You know, there are very small staff-to-child ratios. There are really significant costs associated with the provision of food, the provision of nappies, of cleaning of services. There's very long hours that the centres operate for. Often those centres will run from 6 till 6, so you have to staff at good ratios the whole time. So this is an expensive organisation to run. It costs a significant amount of money, especially when you're doing it to really high standards.
With many parents already feeling the pinch with the high cost of childcare, will increasing educators' pay lead to further increases in the prices?
This campaign is all about getting the government to fund it. The campaign really clearly recognises that parents are already feeling the pinch. It is expensive to send your children to childcare, especially when you've got more than one. It already chews up huge parts of people's wages in the family. So this is about getting the federal government to fund this sector properly. Children are important in our community, whether they're 2, 3, 4, or at school. The funding at the moment relies on the people working in the sector being willing to accept $21 an hour. And the way to fix the $21 an hour is to improve the funding into the sector.
And early childhood educators have an immense amount of unrealised industrial power, don't they? If early educators aren't at work, it also means that doctors, nurses, garbage collectors, pretty much everyone with kids can't go to work because they have to look after their children.
Well, that's right. I think that early educators are starting to feel that power. They're starting to recognise that when they stop, the nation stops, because so many children attend long day care and so many families rely on long day care in order to be able to go to work. We saw a small taste of that last Thursday with educators walking off the job all over the country. Over 10,000 parents had to make other arrangements for the afternoon. Educators have been talking about what's next, and I would be very surprised if there is not a significant amplification of the work that they're doing to get this government to listen. Educators all across the country moved a motion giving Malcolm Turnbull really a ticking time bomb, saying to him, you've got until February the 1st to sort this matter out and to sit down with us and come up with a resolution. And if you can't do that, if you fail to engage with us and sit down and come up with an answer, then there is going to be a massive escalation of walk-offs across the country in March.
And Helen, what can supporters, family members, parents, other workers and listeners out there do to support the early childhood educators in their struggle?
Well, the first thing they should do is go to our Big Steps page and register as a supporter. So that's bigsteps.org.au. We've got a really active community supporter group, so please join and get involved. The second thing that they should do is if they have got young children in their family and they use long day care, or they've got friends of the family or other family members who use long day care, talk to them about the problem and build a bit of community support. Most parents and most people in the community, when they hear the story, are just horrified that people have such enormous responsibility and are paid so poorly. So let's build a bit of support out there in the community.
Helen Gibbons, thanks for joining us on Stick Together.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of another week's show. Thanks to Helen Gibbons and all those amazing educators who spoke with us. Also, big thanks to all the early educators out there for the work that you do every day. If you'd like to support the campaign for equal pay, you can log on to www.bigsteps.org.au.